Right now, there are entire cities where the streets already flood on sunny days without storms or hurricanes. The ocean is just pushing its way inland. Scientists have been warning about this for decades, but only recently have the timelines become uncomfortably specific. Not centuries from now, not even by the end of this century. This city is sinking faster than the ocean is rising. Jakarta is one of the fastest sinking cities on Earth. In some neighborhoods, the ground is dropping by more than 10 inches per year. That is not a projection. That is measured data. That main reason is groundwater extraction. For decades, much of Jakarta relied on underground water wells because piped water was either unavailable or unreliable. As water was pulled out, the land above slowly collapsed. At the same time, sea levels around Indonesia have been rising due to climate change. The result is a city where entire districts are now below sea level. Flood walls have been built again and again, only to be overtaken. In 2007, massive flooding displaced over 400,000 people. In 2013, floodwaters reached the presidential palace. In 2020, one of the worst floods in the city's history killed dozens and forced thousands from their homes. By some estimates, over 40% of Jakarta is already below sea level today. The Indonesian government has publicly acknowledged that parts of the city will become uninhabitable. This is why they announced plans to move the national capital to Borneo. This city floods even when it doesn't rain. Miami sits on porous limestone. That detail is very important. Most coastal cities rely on seawalls or levees to keep the ocean out. Miami can't. Water moves through the ground itself. When sea levels rise, water pushes up through the storm drains, sidewalks, and foundations. This is why Miami now experiences what is called sunny day flooding. Streets flood during high tides, even under clear skies. The city has installed pumps, raised roads, and redesigned infrastructure, but the flooding continues to increase. According to NOAA data, sea levels in South Florida have risen more than 8 inches since 1950, with acceleration in recent decades. Projections show another 10 to 17 inches by 2050. Under moderate scenarios. That might not sound dramatic, but in Miami, even a few inches makes neighborhoods unlivable. By 2050, a large portions of Miami Beach and nearby coastal areas are expected to experience chronic flooding, not occasional storms, regular tidal flooding that never fully drains. Venice was built on wooden piles driven into mud more than 1,000 years ago. For most of its history, it survived by adapting, but modern sea level rise has pushed the city past what adaptation alone can fix. The city floods during events called aqua alta. These high tide events have become more frequent and more severe. In 1966, Venice experienced one of its worst floods ever. At the time, it was considered a once-in-a-century thing, but now similar floods happen multiple times in a decade. In 2019, water levels reached nearly 6 feet above normal, flooding over 80% of the city. Historic buildings were damaged, electrical systems failed, residents were forced to evacuate ground floors. Italy built a massive flood barrier system called MOSE, or MOSE, designed to block the lagoon during high tides. It helps, but it's not a permanent solution. Scientific models show that by 2050, sea level rise combined with land subsidence will make frequent flooding unavoidable, even with barriers. Venice may still exist, but parts of it will function more like an aquarium than a city. This city is sinking while the ocean creeps closer every year. Bangkok sits on soft clay soil and is sinking due to groundwater extraction and the sheer weight of its buildings. At the same time, the Gulf of Thailand is experiencing rising sea levels. Parts of the city are already less than 3 feet above sea level. During monsoon season, flooding is common, but scientists warn that even without storms, future tidal flooding will become routine. In 2011, catastrophic floods shut down large parts of the city and disrupted global supply chains. That event was driven by rainfall, but it exposed how vulnerable Bangkok already is. The Thai government has implemented groundwater regulations and flood defenses, but projections still show large areas at risk. By 2050, coastal expansion of the sea and continued subsidence could place major districts underwater during high tides. Bangkok is not just threatened by the ocean, it is being pulled downward from below while water presses in from the coast. This city sits below sea level and relies on machines to survive. New Orleans is famous for its levees, pumps, and flood walls. Without them, much of the city would immediately flood. The city is built on delta sediment that naturally compacts over time. On top of that, decades of river control prevented fresh sediment from rebuilding the land. As a result, the ground just continues to sink. Hurricane Katrina in 2005 showed exactly what happens when flood defenses fell. Levee breaches flooded 80% of the city. Some areas remained underwater for weeks, and since then, billions have been spent on improved defenses, but sea levels in the Gulf of Mexico are rising faster than the global average. Wetlands that once buffered storm surge are disappearing, and by 2050, experts project that without constant upgrades, parts of New Orleans will face chronic flooding, even without major hurricanes. The city will increasingly depend on technology just to remain dry. And this ancient city is losing land to the Mediterranean right now. Alexandria was founded over 2,300 years ago. Today, it's one of the most threatened coastal cities in the Middle East. Satellite data shows that parts of the city's coastline are eroding rapidly. Saltwater intrusion has already damaged buildings, roads, and underground infrastructure. In recent years, severe flooding events have occurred during storms that would not have caused damage just decades ago. Cemeteries have collapsed, homes have been evacuated. Studies by Egyptian scientists estimate that by 2050, large portions of Alexandria could be underwater or uninhabitable. Millions of residents would be affected. This is not just about climate models, it's visible on the ground today. This city floods so often that residents plan their lives around water levels. Manila is one of the most densely populated cities in the world. It's also one of the most flood prone. The city experiences regular flooding from heavy rains, typhoons, and high tides, but sea level rise is making each flood worse. Land subsidence caused by groundwater extraction has lowered parts of the city by several feet over the past century. Coastal flooding now reaches further inland. In some districts, residents use boats during the rainy season. Schools close, businesses shut down, infrastructure deteriorates. By 2050, climate models project that parts of Metro Manila will face permanent inundation during high tides. For a city of over 13 million people, the scale of that displacement would be enormous. Rotterdam sits largely below sea level. It has survived through one of the most advanced flood defense systems in the world. Massive storm barriers, dikes, and pumping stations protect the city. The Netherlands invests billions every year to hold the ocean back, but even here, engineers acknowledge there are limits. Sea level rise projections show increasing pressure on defenses. Systems designed for occasional use may need to operate constantly by mid-century. By 2050, Rotterdam is expected to remain standing, but only through extreme, ongoing intervention. Without it, large areas would flood rapidly. The city shows what's possible with resources, but also how fragile even the best defenses can be. This city is expanding directly into rising water. Lagos is one of the fastest growing cities in the world. Millions of people live in low-lying coastal areas. Flooding is already common during storms. Informal settlements are especially vulnerable, with little protection or drainage. Sea level rise combined with storm surge threatens to push water further inland. By 2050, scientists project widespread coastal flooding. In some areas, land reclamation projects have actually increased risk by altering natural water flow. The city continues to grow even as the ocean advances. Lagos represents a future where population growth collides with rising seas. And this megacity is sinking under its own weight. Shanghai sits on soft sediment and has experienced land subsidence for decades. Although regulations have slowed it, the city is still vulnerable. Sea level rise along China's eastern coast adds another layer of risk. Storm surges from typhoons already cause flooding, with over 25 million residents and massive infrastructure. Even small increases in water levels have enormous consequences. By 2050, projections show increased coastal flooding risk, especially in low-lying districts near the Huangpu River and coastline. Shanghai has invested heavily in defenses, but the scale of the challenge continues to grow. That's been the video for today. I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the next one.